Where's the Italian?
It's over 9,000! What?
Covered with scorpions. Oh, there's people.
Weird.
We can't all make declarations of hatred at the same time. Hi, everybody.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
你好中国，只叫希腊，多爱更尊重中。
Shield up. There's nothing sacred. Space!
Disappointed! Alton, help me up onto his casket so I can dance on it.
I don't care.
But how did you ever find us?
Oh, easy. We just read the screenplay you left us.
And Hispanic people too.
Gold!
That means you're gay.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
I'll help you.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Huh? Zappuccino.
Get up, it's morning, time to get mad. 'Cause everything in Hollywood is just so bad. From laughs to nonsense and just plain cringe. These directors and celebrities are on the fringe. So pour some coffee into your cup and listen, 'cause it's time to wake the hell up. The rage is real, we're not performing. This is Marvin Movie Monster in the morning.
I missed that intro. I just wanted to give it a try today.
I wondered what you were doing. It's like I haven't seen that for a while, but
Yeah,
here we go.
I missed it. You know what? It's a good song. I like it. I'm not saying it's my ringtone or anything, but I enjoy it. But hey, what do you know? What do you say? M4 Empire. Welcome to the M4 Cast AM. Pleased to have you all here. Welcome to everyone coming over from the Culture Casino show, from the 6 Minute Daily. We are going to keep the momentum going. We're going to be talking about some big news items today. We're going to be talking about this Mandalorian and Grogu Super Bowl spot, which honestly boggles my mind. But at the same time, Lorn, we also have major breaking news on another one of our favorite people, here on the channel and on the WW Pro, family of channels. So yeah, we're going to talk all about that, guys. But as always, this is a show made for you and financed by you. We count on your generous super chats and gifted memberships to keep the lights on around here. We do stop in between stories to read what you have to say. If you do send in one of $50 or more, which is a $50 super chat or 10 memberships, we do stop whatever we're doing to address what it is you want us to address. So let's get started, Lauren. I see we have Ruby Hoove gifted one M4 Empire membership. Thank you very much, Ruby Hoove. And congratulations to the person who got that membership. Just remember, when you are gifted a membership, you have to then up it manually at the end of the month in order to continue on. So, Lauren, first of all, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. It is your ringtone, isn't it?
No, my ringtone is another song that you may have heard recently.
All right.
Backing Protons made the funniest song about me, and there's a chance that it might be my current ringtone, Lauren.
There you go. Well, you remember what I said about it too. It's like I'm thankful that you are just striding as a heroic figure through the world.
Yes.
Just
what was it? He dances and weaves through the Valley of Fears or something like that.
Oh, it was something appropriately ridiculous. I loved it because it was just. So glad that we have you as a shield against all of the evils of the world. It's
you know
really...
what? I honestly, I was like, my wife was like, "Are you listening to that again?" Like,
the mental image it conjures, though, is just
all the time.
I see you prancing through a field of flowers when I hear this thing. It just it's
No,
really quite...
honestly, it's like I gotta get like fired up to like do the news, especially on a day like today. Trevor's out sick today, so like I'm kind of like on my own for for that Park Place. Plus, I got to do Geeks and Gamers stuff, so it is yeah, it's been a lot, but
it was quite majestic. I'm glad that you have that now.
Yeah, I'm glad I do too. It's there I may be working on some stuff to incorporate it in the future. You never know. Actually, it does play at the end of all my videos now, like in on the end screen.
I'm not surprised in the least. What you need to ask him to do, though, is do a metal version so you can open the show with that one and then go to the darker, heavy version.
You know what? I did realize that like I need more like theme songs and videos because like last night we did the M4 Empire Monday night block, which was we started with the member stream at 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock we did just a hangout stream, like a general chill stream with the audience, just me and them here on the M4 Empire, and then we sent everyone from there over to M4 Empire Gaming, where I played Resident Evil 2 for like 4 hours. And all three of those streams started with the M4 cast video. And for the third time, people were like, you really need a new video, like for the different streams. I was like, yeah, probably.
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm telling you, the audience loves when we have those things. So I say, go for it. You've got all the tools to do it. Just go wild with it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I just need time to like sit down and actually like put something together, which time is a commodity that I don't really have very much of. But all right, guys, we are going to keep an eagle eye out for those super chats and gifted memberships to get back to them later. But before we do, Lauren, before we dive into Star Wars, there is some breaking news that we need to get to, because our old friend Caroline Reed over at Forbes has made a major discovery when it comes to Disney and Snow White. Disney's Snow White flop exposed. Rachel Zegler controversy, ballooning budget, and box office collapse cost studio over $170 million, Lauren.
More than that, but yes.
More than that. We're going to get into why it's more than that in a second. But the financial fallout from Disney's live-action Snow White remake flop is finally coming into focus, and the numbers are nothing short of catastrophic. According to new reporting from Forbes star contributor Caroline Reed, the studio's controversial remake didn't just underperform, it cratered. After ballooning production costs, weak box office returns, and mounting controversies surrounding its lead star, the Snow White flop has resulted in an estimated $170 million loss for Disney from theatrical revenue alone. Now, when you add marketing into that into the mix, this catastrophe becomes a box office apocalyptic event. When you start digging into how this happens, the story gets even worse. So the budget spiraled out of control. According to Caroline's reporting, Snow White racked up $336.5 million in production costs. That is massive. And that's like what you would, and that's too much to spend on Star Wars and the Avengers, but that's what they spent on Star Wars and the Avengers. Then when you take into account the tax credits, because that's the thing, you're like, well, they spent 300 and something million. They're like, oh, well, yeah, but they get the tax credits. Well, they only got $64.9 million in UK tax credits, which means that the net production spend for this film was still $271.6 million. So that means, with theater splits being what they are, this movie needed to make over 600 million or 700 million to break, factoring in marketing, probably close to 800 million just to break even. And it's certainly,
I wouldn't downplay the tax credits too much, because that is a significant chunk of change. But even so, given the fact that they basically shot this movie twice, it's still way too much to spend on something that was never going to have the kind of broad appeal that they needed to have for it to be profitable.
What's funny though, Lauren, is that like this is not the only movie that this happened with that year. No. Because Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was apparently shot twice. Captain America: Brave New World was apparently shot twice.
It's been a hallmark of productions under Disney. They I go back and forth as to whether or not I should believe the stories about their scrapbook strategy of how they're shooting movies, but a lot of what seems to happen behind the scenes seems to indicate they're doing something like that. I don't know if it's just because they've completely forgotten how to shoot a movie. My gut tells me it's more that they believe that all the technology that they have now enables them to discard the old rules because they think everything is endlessly malleable. But it's really not. You really should have a clear plan when going in. What is, first of all, the objective of the film? What is the through line of the story that we're trying to tell? And you shoot for that. Don't just shoot dozens of different variations of things and think that you can save it in the edit. That's a fool's errand.
Yeah. What we've seen here, though, also in the box office opened to 87.3 million globally and then only hit 205.7 million worldwide. So that means like it made the bulk of its money like the first weekend. And even that weekend was well below studio projections. 205 million worldwide on a movie that had to make what 6, 7, 800 million. I mean, that places it among the lowest grossing of Disney's modern live action remakes. It's up there with like 102 Dalmatians at this point.
Yeah. And honestly, what this story reminds me of is, remember, there were all the antics going on with Rachel Zegler at the time, and they knew that this was going to poison the well when it came to the release. I think that has an awful lot to do with what happened with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo when Wicked came out. Is they were looking at what happened with Snow White and going, we don't want a repeat of that. I think by the time they actually tried to rein the stars in, it was too late. But they at least recognized that this is becoming a problem for all kinds of productions.
Well, I think that you're going to start seeing movie studios putting in contracts like essentially gag orders, and you're gonna have to what am I trying to say here? Like they're going to control what their stars say more than they ever have before, because now this is several movies that have flopped now because of the rhetoric of main stars. And I mean, I would even point out that the Marvels flopping probably had a lot to do with what Brie Larson had to say in interviews.
I don't know. There was still legacy, let's call it dissatisfaction with what she had said before the Marvels was even in production. You know, I think that by that time they'd already kind of killed that part of the MCU brand.
But it just shows you how long these memories are, though, for the fans. Because, like with Rachel Zegler, if Rachel Zegler gets put in a Star Wars movie, for instance, next, or a Marvel film, people are still going to be playing the weird clips. They're going to be playing the "May Trump and his supporters never know peace." They're going to be playing the Free Palestine stuff. Like they're going to be doing all of that, and it's always going to follow her.
Well, I don't believe that she has been cast in a theatrical production since, has she?
No. There's a small movie that she had already been cast in with Marissa Tomei. But other than that, no, she doesn't really have anything big coming out at all. She's been mostly doing theater. I mean, she's basically in exile. I think they're trying to hope that like people will forget, but people don't forget these things. And you know, it is like it is sad in a way, because what was she, like 22 or something like that or something? I would hate to be judged for the rest of my life on something stupid that I said when I was 22, because I said many stupid things when I was 22. But you're in the public eye. It's a different thing.
Yeah, and honestly, a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way. You would hope that once the backlash begins, that you would take the message that, hey, perhaps people don't like what I'm saying, and maybe I should examine what I'm saying and what the impact of that is. Now, I see here in the chat that Jared Markham is saying, I don't think they can do that, at least not in the way that we would want them to, because the stars would cry free speech, and 9 out of 10 times the courts would side with that talent. That's actually not correct, because your First Amendment speech rights prevent the government from restricting your speech. In this case, I suspect the way the contracts would work is that you essentially tie the contract to the performance of the movie. And what I think would have the biggest impact is a lot of times stars will take a reduced salary so that they get points on the back end. I think that what they would do is have some kind of a threshold that says, if we do not cross this threshold for the profits of the movie, then you lose your points on the back end. And that I think would hurt them more than, say, their initial sign-up fee.
But I think these stars don't understand like the effect that they have on the box office, because they are in such a bubble that they still think that the rest of the world thinks the way that they do. They're always shocked. Like they're all shocked that the Turning Point USA halftime show did 25 million views just from YouTube and Rumble. And so much so that now the entire Hollywood media machine is like has been decrying it and debasing it for the last 2 days. They're always shocked when these things happen, when they are proven to be completely out of touch, when it is shown that the average American is nothing like them. By the way, Justin Duchy for 23.99 euros says snow mud flopped. What? Weird. Thank you, Justin Duchy.
Well, it's one time. I don't think he would mind if I mentioned this. I was contacted one time by Clifton Duncan, and I actually did an interview with him, and it never actually went to air, but we had a pretty good conversation after we were done recording. And I was talking to him about whether or not Hollywood could change, what it would take to make Hollywood change. And I think his position was, if I'm remembering correctly, was that there's a lot of things that prevent Hollywood from changing. A lot of it has to do with how the guilds are situated and how work has to be conducted. But as Hollywood continues to die out, I think my hope is you'll start to see other filmmaking centers begin to appear. Now, whether that is likely or not, I don't know. But if that kind of thing does happen, one of the advantages will be is that you will get out of that geographic center and perhaps gain some exposure to viewpoints that you're not necessarily familiar with. That could be the start of breaking that Hollywood bubble. I would hope, at least.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A couple things from the chat that I'd like to highlight here. Hoshi Rio says, more importantly, have it so you bringing too much bad PR means you can be terminated. It's not limiting free speech. It's saying they can get rid of you for being offensive. And that service dog said, when I worked at a hospital, we had to sign a social media contract monitoring our content for potential harm to the company. It's actually common for businesses. This is true. And honestly, I don't think that if all the studios started doing this, you'd get a lot of pushback from the celebrities because they need to work. And like none of them are going to like challenge Disney. We saw Tatiana Maslany has now challenged Disney, and she's probably never going to work again.
So. Right. And I think that's more the way it will work. It would not be it's not that we're declaring we're not going to work with you, because they know that the stars, whether they're working or not, they do command media attention. They have a voice, they have a megaphone, and that can hurt the studios. So the studio's approach is just, fine, we'll just internally decide not to work with you in the future. And then there's nothing actionable that a star can point to. They can see that they're not getting work, but it's not like you declared, I'm not going to work with you publicly, if you get the difference.
Right. The big thing here, Lauren, marketing costs could push Snow White even deeper into the red. So if the estimated $170 million theatrical loss wasn't damaging enough, the full financial picture surrounding the Snow White flop becomes even more dire once marketing expenses are factored in. So blockbuster films on this scale typically have a marketing spend of about $100 to $150 million, depending on the breadth of the rollout. That includes worldwide trailer placement, television ad buys, digital and social media campaigns, brand partnerships, cross promotions, red carpet premieres, press tours, international localization and dubbing promotion. And given that controversy, given all the controversy, Disney arguably had to spend even more on damage control and visibility in attempting to reframe that narrative. Apparently, they also had to hire those social media gurus to keep an eye on Rachel Zegler for a while. So all of that adds into this cost. And so the crucial financial reality here is marketing costs are not included in the UK production filings that revealed the $336.5 million gross production spend. So that means the previously outlined 168 to 170 million theatrical loss only reflects the gap between box office returns and net production costs. Add in an estimated 100 to 150 million global marketing push on top of that, and the true damage tied to it is well beyond $250 million, potentially even over 300 million before ancillary revenue is even considered. That's massive.
Yep. And I want to be at least somewhat fair to Snow White here, in the sense that one of the things that surprised me when I watched the movie is that Rachel Zegler actually can sing.
Yeah.
She's got a voice, and I
Culture
cannot
would argue that with you, but yes, I agree.
I cannot blame Rachel Zegler for the writing in the movie. They decided to alter her arc and how she is portrayed as a strong woman, like they want to do in all of these productions today. That's not her fault, but she got really excited about that spin and got out over her skis about the romantic portion of the movie, which I think turned a lot of people off because that's a core part of the story.
Well,
And
riddle me this, Lorne. What if the things that she said on the red carpet were Disney talking points that were given to her? I would say they probably were.
I think it's 50-50. You know, I think that there's a strong possibility that there were talking points, but I don't doubt for a minute that she was really excited about promoting those points as well. That weird clip, that didn't come from Disney. That's her.
So the biggest problem with Rachel Zegler is that Rachel Zegler thinks she's funny.
Yeah, I think that's true. And this is one of those things where I do feel a little bit bad for her because, as you said, she was 22, 23. Once you start getting the backlash, it's easy to be hurt by that. And then it's easy to try and lash out and double down. And that's what she did. And that just makes it worse. Sometimes you've just got to understand the audience is the audience. They're allowed to have their opinion. You're in the public eye. Your job in that situation is to be gracious and let it roll off your back. It can hurt you internally, but you have to be able to say, look, we did the best that we could. We hope that it's going to entertain you. If it's not for you, that's fine. But we did our best work that we could while shooting the film, and we hope you enjoy it. That's how you handle those things. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in the public eye like this.
You have to do what Leslie Headland said she was going to do with The Acolyte, where she was like, if it fails, it's on me. And then all of a sudden it failed, and it's like, it's everyone else's fault.
You know, the audience will give you an enormous amount of grace if you're willing to do that, because then at least they feel like, okay, you're being honest about the fact that you tried. It's okay to try and fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay to fail and then not recognize the failure or what caused it. That's what gets you in trouble.
Yeah. Like the weird conversation, that's her trying to make people laugh. And like, you know, the interviewer laughs, obviously, because they're sycophants and they suck up to them. But the reason why I thought it was talking points was because when she starts with the whole like, well, she's not going to be dreaming about true love, and Gal Gadot like jumps right in and she goes, she's not going to be saved by the prince. Kal-El, no.
Yeah, it's. I mean, one of the funny things I think about movie criticism when we're talking about it like this is that obviously critics are going to be harsher on movies than the general audience would be. And one of the things that was interesting was I was going into this movie kind of knowing what I was getting into, knowing what to expect. In some ways, Snow White wasn't quite as bad as what I expected. You know, in some ways I could point to some things and say, okay, that wasn't so bad. But but I went with my folks. My dad hated it, just like I did. My mom at the time loved it. And that's because she loves these kinds of movies, not meaning woke, meaning she loves the old school Disney movies and she just sees it as a Disney movie, you know, with a bunch of musical numbers, and she didn't have a problem with the dwarves. And so she's not reading it at that level like we would. And it's always interesting being on this side as a critic, watching the general audience to see how are they relating to it. Now, I think in this case, the general audience pretty much voted with their feet and they were in agreement with us. But in the critic space, a lot of times the critics and the general audience are not on the same side, you know, and I think a critic can get in real trouble thinking that the audience is uneducated or doesn't have the technical awareness to judge a movie the way that it should be judged. And when you start thinking that you're breathing that rarefied air, you need to get outside and talk to some people because the audience is always right.
Yeah, 100% you're right on that. I just still love the story of you having to walk in and say, one for Snow White, please.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
You and I both had to go see that movie because we were paid through Super Chats to go see it.
Yeah, and that was actually the same one where they asked me if I wanted the senior discount, and I just wanted to punch the kid.
I mean, the movie it's so terrible, right? Like it's got socialist, you know, I wouldn't even say undertones. It says socialist overtones. Gal Gadot, despite the fact that I do typically like her as like a person, she's terrible in this film. Like, she is so bad in this movie. She is worse here than she was as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's there's a part of me. I'm glad we're past Snow White now because after a while it started to feel like we're talking about this way too much, and you start to feel like, are we just being mean now? And it's like, but the reason that you're being mean is that you don't want them to keep making this stuff. It's like, just stop it.
Well, it's also because we were all decried when we started talking about what a flop this was going to be. Like, people came at us out of the woodwork. The Rachel Zegler defenders were monstrous. And then there were all these reports that, like, no, it wasn't $300 million budget. It was $150 million budget. So it's not that bad. They all came. Variety came out and said that, I believe. Like, a whole bunch of them all came out and tried to oppose us. And now we have proof from UK tax filings. God bless the Queen. God save the Queen there, because I'm going back to the Queen because I understand they have a king now, but I'm still going back to the Queen. I don't recognize his rule, but because they make these things public, and then you're able to actually see what these movies are spending. Otherwise, we'd never know. We would never know what these Hollywood movies are spending. And I don't understand how that's legal, because as a publicly traded company, their financials should have to be public. I'm sure there's
Well, they are public, but they kind of group things together and put them under different line items and obfuscate exactly how much an individual production does. So you can see the overall numbers, but it's all slopped together. And so I agree with you. The UK filings are fantastic for us because they give us a better picture of what's actually going on and help to debunk their corporate talking points.
Yes, I agree. Oh man, this game is just something. This movie is just something else. The gift that keeps on giving. It's honestly, this has been a very nostalgic week for me, because I got to do an Acolyte video, and now I'm gonna get to do a Snow White video. Like it's like coming home again. Like, this is what I was covering when the channel first started.
I'm very sad for you if you consider these subjects to be coming home. That's a pretty bad home life.
I just, you know what, man, it's been a long time since we have had to talk about these things. And then the Acolyte with Leslie Headland claiming the Acolyte was successful. I mean, that was just hilarious to talk about.
I just really wish that we were at a point where we were talking about something that was good, that we were excited about. I get really tired of harping on things. It's exhausting. And I'd much rather be excited about something and happy to tell you, go watch this because it's great.
Oh, I have something for that. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is wonderful. I binged all 4 episodes this weekend. I texted Judah in the middle of it. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, it is absolutely incredible. It is better than Game of Thrones. It is it's way better than House of the Dragon. I was just like Sir Dunk is like my favorite character on TV right now, and of the last 5 years probably. He is just tremendous. He's just like this wholesome big lug who knows right from wrong and has a sense of chivalry and honor. And man, I love this show. I was so upset when we got through all 4 episodes, because the episodes are only 32 minutes long.
I am so happy to hear you report this because I'm not able to watch the show, but I have read all of the novellas. I love the Dunk and Egg stories. And I was telling you when you texted me, it's like, in some ways, these are my favorite Game of Thrones stories. And honestly, if you're not familiar with these folks in the chat, I look at the first Dunk and Egg story as a straight version of A Knight's Tale because it's basically the same thing. There are a lot of romance stories that involve a squire whose knight passes away and he doesn't know what to do, and so he passes himself off as a knight and attorney, and that's what this story is. And the beautiful thing for me about Dunk and Egg is that you have this unlikely duo who are banded together through fate or circumstance. And the lovely thing about Dunk, I said he's constantly saying about himself, "Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle wall." He thinks of himself as not being all that bright. He's just this orphan who grew up in flea bottom and learned how to fight. But he has a nobility to him, a sense of honor, and more than that, while he doesn't necessarily consider himself intelligent, he is wise, and that is something that Egg will need in future stories.
Yes.
And it becomes a situation where Dunk becomes Egg's guardian and protector, and there's an important reason for that. The nice thing about these stories too is that they take place 100 years before the Game of Thrones stories.
And
No
100 years
spoiler,
after House of the Dragon.
but no spoilers here.
Yeah.
But they are sort of a footnote in the larger Game of Thrones story, an important footnote, actually, that if you happen to know it, it will deepen your experience with A Song of Ice and Fire. If you don't know it, you don't really miss anything, but it just enriches the experience that much more if you know the stories.
I won't give any kind of spoiler here, but I will say I figured out who Egg was like immediately. I didn't know going into it, but then like I was looking at him, and then like somebody said something about like something that was going on, and I was like, oh, okay, that's who you are. But yeah, dude, I love. They're about to do the trial by combat in the next episode, and the 7-on-7.
Yep.
I love the character of I forget his first name, but the Baratheon that's there. He is tremendous. He is so fun.
So
I love the Targaryens. Like I love the Targaryen. I'm fascinated by the Targaryen dynasty constantly. It's why I wanted to love House of the Dragon, even though I really don't. But I'm reading Fire and Blood.
So maybe I misunderstood. Is the series not over yet? So you have not seen the ending?
Not over yet.
Oh, okay. Then I'll stop talking.
There's another 2 episodes.
All right. Well, okay. Just enjoy it is all I will say. One of the things that thrilled me about the trailers that came out is that, when you're reading something, you always have a picture in your mind of how it would look if you were shooting it, or if you were viewing whatever it was that happened. When the trailers came out, it actually looked better than what I imagined. And that was so pleasing to me. And it looked to me like they had perfectly cast Dunk. It looks to me like they perfectly cast Egg. I was just so happy to see that. And I'm especially happy to hear that you're enjoying the show. That I haven't seen it yet. I'm hoping somehow I get a way to watch it, because this is one I actually am excited about.
I will say at first, before I figured out who Egg was, I thought Egg was a girl. I thought it was like an Arya Stark situation where Egg was a girl trying to pass herself off as a boy, but not the case. But they have a very like it's such a like Egg is such a little kid that like he just sounds like a girl.
Sassy as can be, though.
Oh my gosh, Egg's lines are so good, and then there's this moment where the two of them are just sitting under the elm tree. And Egg is like griping about something, and Dunk just goes like, "Yeah, I'm Egg. I do this and like I was like, oh my wife and I at the same time just kind of went like pressed our hands to our hearts. We were just like, this is adorable. It's like a big brother little brother situation, and it's completely wholesome. And like the thing about Game of Thrones is it's so black and white. Like even like the great honorable Ned Stark has got all of these terrible secrets that he's burying. Dunk is just a refreshingly wholesome character who is exactly what he appears to be.
Yes, and I keep going back to, and he has a noble heart, and that is something that Egg will need to have demonstrated. It's the reason that they are paired together is because Egg needs that kind of influence in his life, and Dunk is one of the most honorable, noble characters in Game of Thrones, in my opinion, and part of it is because he recognizes what he is, but he has aspirations to be more. He wants to set an example. He is all right. This is the toxic masculinity that they complain about. This is actually an example of the masculine ideal. That's what Dunk is, and it is represented so well in these stories.
I'm always endlessly fascinated by the Targaryens. That's why I love reading Fire and Blood, because my favorite quote from Game of Thrones is, When a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin and all of Westeros holds its breath because you just never know when one of them is just going to snap.
Well, there's so much madness in that family, and it's all because of
inbreeding.
Yep. And it's like my contention has always been, I think what Martin was doing was writing a response to Tolkien. And my contention has always been that Game of Thrones could only have been written by an American. And the reason for that is, in my opinion, we have a tendency to romanticize the Middle Ages, and we think of kings and queens in medieval times as being beautiful and something to aspire to. Martin is reminding us, well, actually, the way things went is that while there may have been lines of succession, nobody ever honored them, and when the monarch died, everybody goes to war, and the common people die.
And people routinely crapped themselves to death.
Yes, and that's the thesis of Game of Thrones, and it is an American critique once again of a monarchical system, and so that's always been my take on it. But I
just wish that they had stuck the landing, man, on Game of Thrones. If Game of Thrones had ended like on a Breaking Bad or Cobra Kai level ending, like it would be a powerhouse. It would be a juggernaut, and it's just not anymore. Like this is refreshingly wonderful. But like, I mean, like House of the Dragon. I mean, the first season of House of the Dragon, I heard a lot. I remember hearing a lot about. People liked it. Second season, I just heard it kind of falls off. Second season, I watched like the first like 2 or 3 episodes, and then I stopped, and I have to get back into it.
I'm in a weird position in that I never finished the Game of Thrones show, and so I still don't know what everybody's complaining about. I know some of the spoilers more than I want to know. But I only made it through, I think, season 2 or 3 of the show. Okay. And I only made it through 3 or 4 of the books. And so I don't know where things go.
Well, I mean, I can say this without giving anything away, but like in season 1 of House of the Dragon, King Viserys tells Rhaenyra, like, he tells her about the Song of Ice and Fire, Aegon the Conqueror's dream of the Walkers invading, and that a Targaryen will have to oppose them. And I'm like, yeah, it's all garbage. Like it's all like none of that happens. Like, I got really mad. Also, there is a scene in Game of Thrones where Joffrey Baratheon completely spoils the end of House of the Dragon.
Well, I mean, this is what happens when you jump around the timeline a lot.
Rhaenyra Targaryen.
Yeah, so I'm deeply frustrated with Martin, but I also
you guys know we're talking about George R.R. Martin, not Martin Stone.
Right. Because we've had this conversation before. I feel like the reason that he's not finishing writing is because I think he's in a mental position where he can't. I am convinced that he feels that enough of the ending that he intended was executed poorly by the showrunners that he doesn't feel that he can write the ending he actually wants to write. And I think he's trying to write something different so that it is not the same as the show, and yet his characters are saying, "No, I refuse."
You know, George R.R. Martin, apparently, like, he has been very vocal about the fact that the House of the Dragon showrunners completely disregard him.
Yep. Yeah, and this is another frustration that I have with him, is that, look, I understand that there are things that he has written that he knows are going to pay off later down the line that the showrunners may not, and don't understand why they shouldn't cut this thing. But at the same time, if you would just finish writing so that they weren't having to guess.
I don't know what he does all day. Because, like, I'm finding time to write my book, and I do a lot all day. Like,
but he's wrestling with it. He doesn't want to write it. I think that's the problem. He's using every excuse he can find to be distracted because he doesn't want to be forced to write the thing that he knows is not the true ending in his mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Ninja Master Holland says season 2 of House of the Dragon sidelined everyone's favorite character, Daemon, for a long time, to the point where Daemon does almost nothing all season. That's upsetting because Daemon Targaryen is my favorite character on that show. I mean, like he's amazing. And Matt Smith does an incredible job in that show of Matt Smith. Like, he played the Doctor for so many years, and he was so wholesome and goofy and silly and kind that but like, he plays a bastard really good. Like, he's really good at just being obnoxious. We saw it when he played Skynet. We saw it when he played Prince Philip, and now we're seeing it in House of the Dragon. Like, when they cast him as a villain, man, he plays him very, and not saying Prince Philip was a villain, but he is a jerk. Mike Glass disagrees with you. I don't know. I don't see. He didn't say how, but he disagrees with you. So,
well, that's fine. Feel free to disagree.
Season 1 Daemon was peak. Yeah, when he defeats the crab feeder, and he just like goes in there and just wrecks everybody. Yeah, like, that is just exceptional stuff. But yeah, I highly recommend reading Fire and Blood. It is it reads like a textbook, because it is a textbook. Yeah, but it's very fascinating to hear about. I would love to know more about Old Valyria, and I'm wondering if they're ever going to do a thing that explores Old Valyria.
Because don't give him something else to get distracted with, because he'll jump on it.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, George, I didn't mean it. Don't do it. Because they always talk about the fall of Old Valyria, and I'm like, what was it? Like, we don't know anything about it. We don't know why Valyria was destroyed.
Yeah, to guess, and this is just off the cuff thinking, generally speaking, magic is rare in Game of Thrones and dangerous. And my guess is Valyria was more of a high magic society, and that they played around with magic a little bit too much, then led to some kind of a cataclysm.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Because the fall of Old Valyria happens, and that's when the Targaryens, I think, cross the Narrow Sea and just take over everything.
Yep.
But it's fascinating, though, because like the Targaryens, like, they embrace, like, the 7 gods of Westeros, but at the same time, they do things like polygamy, which are not permitted among the 7. Things like that, or marry brother to sister. Because Aemon Targaryen's 2 wives were his 2 sisters. And that's why the one thing that I did appreciate never mind, was Jon Snow's like background spoiled for you?
Not yet. I
I
understand there is something there, but I haven't heard precisely what it is.
Okay, then never mind. I won't talk about it. All right, we should move on. The Mandalorian and Grogu Super Bowl spot was a monumental and expensive marketing fumble. This was one of the most baffling things I've ever seen. Disney and Lucasfilm had the biggest stage in television. They had over 100 million viewers watching. They had the first theatrical Star Wars film in years to sell, and they spent $10 million on a gag.
Sometimes we choose.
With a Sam Elliott weird voiceover. Like, oh, remember Tauntauns? I remember. The only takeaway from here is the Tauntauns. And like, at the end of the day, you don't need to spend $10 million to remind people that Grogu is cute. They know Grogu is cute. They're aware. They bought all the merchandise at this point. At this point, I don't think Grogu is a draw. Lorn, my thing about this is $10 million on something like this, where this is a thing that you do when you have ample goodwill to spend. When just putting the Star Wars logo on something is enough to get people into the theater, they do not have that advantage anymore. There is no goodwill among the fan base. The Star Wars name is not indicative of quality anymore.
More than anything else, this spot kind of revealed to me how much they're panicking internally. I don't think they have any confidence in this movie. This would have worked. Like I said last night, I believe this would have worked if this had been the lead in to the actual trailer. Then people would have given this the grace that it needed. And it is a funny gag when you look at it as, okay, they're parodying a Budweiser commercial. But generally speaking, people either don't know that this movie is coming out, or if they do, they have no clue what it's about. And they need to start getting that message out because it's only 3 months out. That is such a short marketing timeline for a movie like this, and that's why I think it's like there's a part of me that wonders, did they pull back? Did they have more that they intended to release and they decided we can't?
So, I mean, this movie has several things working against it, right? There is
Season
the
3.
fact that Star Wars has no goodwill with the fans anymore. There's the fact that Pedro, people are tired of Pedro. There's Grogu fatigue, I think, and the Mandalorian itself does not have good. Like if this movie were coming out after season 2, and there was no Book of Boba Fett or anything like that, I think that you could have sold this movie on just the sight of the two of them sitting in a sleigh. But after season 3, people were just done with this.
Well, it's also the timeline, the length of time between releases. It's like season 3 was 3 years ago, and there's been nothing in the interim. All of this is just mind-boggling to me, how careless they're being with this release. It's like, look, I think part of it is related to the fact that they're embarrassed that one of the few things that had audience goodwill was The Mandalorian, a streaming TV production, not a theatrical release. And I think that embarrasses them a little bit. And I think that's partially why it looks so far in what we've seen more like a TV show than a movie. I think there's probably some internal resentment towards it and a wish for it to fail. I think that's what happened with season 3. And I think that's why Favreau claims that he still has the scripts for season 4 on his desk, but I'm betting we're not going to get a season 4. So there's a part of me that feels like they completely kneecapped this series because it was embarrassing the previous regime.
Yeah, I agree. I think The Mandalorian was appealing to the people that they didn't want to like Star Wars anymore. That was the problem. I think that when Luke Skywalker showed up at the end of season 2 and everyone celebrated it, and it was a cultural flashpoint. I think that Kathleen Kennedy and her minions like Pablo Hidalgo and all of them were furious about it. They were furious at the reception. They hated. Like that's why we saw Pablo Hidalgo mocking Star Wars theory for getting emotional, because they were livid that this had that kind of outpouring of love and support, something that the sequel trilogy was never able to generate.
Well, this again goes back to, I mean, we can argue this point, but to me, it seems pretty obvious that initially The Mandalorian was acting like a failsafe. It was if this doesn't work, we can reposition things to go a different direction, because they were subtly altering some things that were in the canon. You know, they were setting things up so that they could go a different direction if they needed to. And when that started getting attention, when that started getting audience buy-in, and when people were lauding it and saying, this, not what you're doing, that was the thing that set them all off. That's when Favreau, in my opinion, lost control. They got rid of Gina. They gave us the Book of Boba Fett. They gave us Mando season 3, which the thing that startles me about Mando season 3 is that I understand why diehards don't like it, but I figured the casual audience would just go along because they're casual fans.
Because baby cute. Yeah.
Even the casual audience turned on it. And that also tells you something. Something happened. I don't believe that Favreau just lost all of his talent. I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, we've been hearing it for forever that this was, Kathy came in and took over. Her people took over. And
yes, but there's the corporate line that, well, this is the way it's always been. This has always been the hierarchy, but there is a definite, you can sense when things changed. And I think I told you, I don't remember if I told you for sure, they have upcoming releases of art books, which I love. They have the art of the Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in November. They have the art of Andor coming out in June, I think it is. But one of the things that I noticed about the art of the Mandalorian and Grogu is that it's also going to include small sections about The Mandalorian Season 3 and the Book of Boba Fett. Now, the reason that that's important, to me at least, is that previously they had been releasing art books for each of the seasons, but they didn't do so for the Book of Boba Fett or Mando Season 3. And I kept wondering, why are they not doing that? Publicly, they're positioning it as, well, we decided that we wanted to have a different style for our art books so that they were more comprehensive so that you don't have to buy as many. It's like, aren't you guys in this for profit? But what I got to thinking about is maybe it means they didn't have a lot of concept art. Why wouldn't they have a lot of concept art? Because they didn't have time to create it. When they fired Gina, it upended everything that they had to do. They had to scramble so quickly. It's possible that they just didn't create a lot of concept art, so they couldn't publish a full book.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Gosh, just the embrace of the ideology in season 3 with making it about Bo-Katan, a character that they completely, I mean, we've had this conversation before, but they've upended the entire point of Bo-Katan, because the point of Bo-Katan is it ain't her. Yep. She's not the one. Yeah, like she desperately wants to be the one, but she's not her sister, and she's never going to be the one. And her arc should have been complete by the fact of her accepting, yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they regressed her character because she had already learned that lesson. You know, I kind of like what they did by saying that when Sabine gave her the Darksaber and was trying to unite the Mandalorian clans, then off screen Gideon shows up, Mandalore is placed under Imperial control. Gideon understands that you cannot be given the Darksaber. It has to be taken through combat. That's all invented lore to get them where they needed to be for the show. But I like it as a lore standing because it's in keeping with how Mandalorians would think. But then to have Bo decide, well, I still need to win that Darksaber through combat so that I can be the rightful leader of Mandalore. You already had your shot. You already understood it didn't work. That was her point, was to come to that acceptance. And one of the things that I think was very telling was Katie Sackhoff recently was saying on her podcast show that she had to reevaluate her entire career after doing Mando season 3 because she said she didn't understand her character. And I believe it's because of that. It's because she recognized they regressed her character and she didn't know how to connect to her anymore.
Yeah, well, because you come to terms with this character's psychology, and then to fundamentally alter it in the exact opposite direction, to do a complete and utter 180 on everything, you lose that character. And it's obvious in her performance in season 3. She has no grasp on this character. She's just going through the girl boss motions at that point. And that's why girl boss characters feel so hollow, I think, because there's nothing there for them. Like there is no meat in there. And so Katie Sackhoff went from playing a character that had been written very well up to that point to now playing a girl boss. And like when we saw Bo-Katan in season 2, she wasn't like moping around, and like she was just out there doing her thing. Like her and Sasha Banks were out there and they were doing their thing in the galaxy, and Mando found them, and it was just like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Let's do this thing together. But when he finds her in season 3, she's sitting on that throne and she's like, I'm so sad that I'm not the leader of the Mandalorians.
There were so many missed opportunities in season 3. You know, one of them that I go off on constantly is that pirate corsair, because a lot of people didn't like the pirate storyline, and I get it. It was kind of goofy, but that's part of why I liked it, because it felt like 50s B sci-fi that George would have liked. But the biggest missed opportunity was that Mando should have captured that ship. That should have been his upgrade. It's like the N1 Starfighter that he souped up is a lot of fun for a single person craft, or two, because Grogu can fit in it. But he needs a troop carrier. He needs, especially if, as he should have become the Mandalore, he needs to have something with a bit more juice. And that Corsair, I wanted that toy. It was a beautiful ship. This is the kind of thing that used to drive this kind of thing, and they just destroy it. It's like, I get you're getting the Razor Crest back for the movie, but honestly, that feels like a cheat. It feels like there's been a recognition made that we made a mistake by blowing up the Razor Crest. If you'd given him the Corsair, you could have avoided the cheat and had given him another cool ship.
By the way, I'm hoping that with the Razor Crest coming back, it's going to be a bigger Razor Crest that he can actually store the N1 Starfighter in.
I don't think so. It looks the same to me. The only difference that I've noticed is the yellow stripe on it to differentiate it from the original.
Because I don't want them to get rid of the N1 Starfighter. I do like that ship, but I agree. But like the Razor Crest is his home, so
Yeah,
you can't
and
live out
that's
of
why
an Starfighter.
That's why I thought the Corsair would be the perfect solution, because it was big enough that you could dock with it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, the point of season 3 should have been that Bo-Katan wants to be the leader of Mandalore and isn't, and Din Djarin doesn't want to be the leader of Mandalore and is.
Yep.
And
Totally.
that it should be, like, and both having to come to terms with her, having to come to terms with the fact that she is not the one who can unite the clans, and him having to come to terms with the fact that even though he doesn't want to, he's the only one who can.
Yep. And as you have made the point of in the past, it's like you want your leader to be humble. And if the Mandalorian is saying, no, wait, I'm not the king. Look how humble he is. He is our natural leader. That
praise the Mandalore.
It's funny and it works. And there were things about season 3 that I did like. I thought the relighting of the Forge on Mandalore was cool. I thought the sighting of the Mythosaur was cool, although I know not everybody was on board with that.
I liked seeing the Mythosaur. I didn't like that it was Bo-Katan that saw the Mythosaur.
Generally speaking, I liked the idea that the waters of Mandalore are necessary for the proper forging of Beskar. I thought that was a cool addition to the lore. I even liked ravaged Mandalore on the surface and seeing it as a post-apocalyptic kind of a world with these weird creatures and things on it. That was neat.
Also, like, how cool would it have been if Din Djarin was the one who saw the Mythosaur, and then like he brings it up, right? It's just like, well, like, I saw the Mythosaur on Mandalore, and they're like, praise the Mandalore. It's right. Like just more of like him not wanting this, but destiny is just literally being thrust upon him. Yep. As opposed to this woman who is the definition of what's the word I'm looking for? Not passion, but like wanting it so badly.
Covetousness, perhaps?
No. What Slytherin? They're known for
betrayal, treachery.
No, like wanting wanting something so bad and going for it under any circumstances. Ambition.
Oh, sure. There you go.
Like she was the definition of toxic ambition.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One other complaint that I have about the third season is that after all of the setup, Gideon feels forced or false in season 3 to me, and he goes out like a chump.
It's not need to be in season 3.
Yeah, it felt to me like this is not the Gideon that has been presented to us up to this point. Now he's just a thug with Beskar armor, and you're trying to shoehorn in sequel era stuff into an era that doesn't need it.
And his big plan was, what's going to really help me rule the galaxy is if I make clones of my 60-year-old self.
Yep.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, if they were all like super like young, fit Gideon like super soldiers, that's one thing. But L Bird 13, by the way, for $5 says, with KK gone, do you think Filoni will use the OG characters, and do we trust him not to mess up the characters and stories? No, I think going forward it's going to be all Filoni characters. I think going forward, Star Wars is Ahsoka and Ezra and Hera and Sabine and Chopper. Like, I think it's going to be all Filoni characters up from this point forward.
I've got a different take. What I was going to say is, up until the Super Bowl ad, I was thinking they were hiding something from us. My position was that they have fed us the Rot of the Hutt storyline as a massive distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that it was going to be leading to something bigger. And my feeling was that probably we're going to get some cameos of the original trilogy characters and possibly, maybe Cara Dune, at least in a small thing, to get us excited again. After that Super Bowl ad, I'm no longer confident of that. And everything that we're hearing is that it sounds like the Dave Filoni properties are going to be wrapping up. And so,
by the way, that's where you would have shown that Cara Dune was in this, I think, in the Super Bowl trailer. You have 100 million people watching, show that Cara Dune is back, or Luke, and you're going to get people excited again, but whatever.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I'm feeling like I feel like Dave's pocket universe with all of these tie-in TV shows, I think they're all ending. And I think that's the big show that they are actually looking to pivot to something completely different. We just don't know what that is yet.
It'll be interesting to see what it is. Elbird also for $5 says how Bo got the saber was a cheat. She defeated the creature which got Mando. It was meh. Absolutely. It was such semantics that it was insane.
Yeah. It was so obviously we wrote ourselves into a corner and now we need to make this happen because this is what has been mandated will happen.
All right, Lorn, that's everything. The Pro Show is just kicking off, so we're going to send everybody over to there. Anything you need to plug for Lorn and Apollo tonight?
No, what we are going to be covering though was from an audience suggestion last night, which is movies that are better than their reputation. So come and join us for that. It'll be 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. All right, guys. And we're going to send you over to the Pro Show. Make sure to check out the M4 Empire later today. Hopefully trying to get a video out later tonight. And then I'll be joining Lorn on Lorn and Apollo tonight. So come check us out over there. I'll also be on the HCast with Mr. H Reviews. Me and Culture and Nate and probably Nick over there today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you check that out as well. All right. From all of us here at the M4 Empire, I thank you for your attention, and we'll catch you in the next one.